An update from perhaps the highest profile Senate race this year, and this is the Texas Senate seat, which has been held by Republicans for decades and decades. But this guy over here, James Talarico, he is the first Democrat in many years who may win the seat. He will face up against either incumbent John Cornyn or a Republican challenger, Ken Paxton. Now, it's expected to be a very tight race with the polls indicating it could come down to 1 or 2% on either side. But I actually want to bring up something which might give us some more solid results of what to expect. So, Texas is having a state senate special election, aka a by election, which is where an incumbent state senator is no longer able to serve. So, there will be another election to fill that place. So let's go all the way back to 2022. This was a Republican leaning year in the US. Nationwide, they did okay. They won back the House, but they didn't make huge advancements and only narrowly beat the Democrats. Right now, the US is in a very pro Democrat environment. So the question is, what can happen in the Senate seat? Now, at the last election, it was in 2022, it went red by, let me do maths here, almost 40 points. So it's quite unlikely it flips to the Republicans. It flips to the Democrats, because look at that margin of victory. I don't think that is really changing. I think that the Republicans are very likely to hold the seat, but I would watch that margin, because if it goes down to 20 points, or even less than that, I think that's a very good sign for James Talarico. If there's that sort of margin shift, I think that points to there being a firm on the ground voting base for him. And the reason I bring this up is it's not like a small place where there's a couple of thousand voters. Texas Senate districts actually have larger populations than the congressional districts in Texas. So this could point very well to Texas Democrats doing very well statewide. So let's see. Could this shift up to 20 points? I think if it goes past that, it looks very good for James Talarico. However, if this is only shifting by 10, 15, I think that's a little bit of a warning sign that maybe in East Texas, he's not having the movement that he wants to have in order to win. But the reason I think that this is competitive, it could flip. I really don't think it's likely, but the reason I think it's going to narrow down is if we look to earlier this year in the Texas special election in the Senate. So in the first round of voting, the Democratic candidate got nearly 48% of the vote. Now let's look at how much of a movement that was from before. In the last election in 2022, it went red by 20 points. Well, in the first round, if you put together all Republicans and the one Democrat, Republicans generally won by 5 points. But it was between Democrat Taylor Emmett and Republican Leigh Vomschgantz, who got 36% of the vote. And we get to a second round, Democrat versus Republican. There you go. The Democrat wins by about 15 points, 14 points. Yeah, once won by about 14 points, which is a massive swing in a district where nearly 100,000 people voted. That is very close to what congressional districts get in turnout in a national election. So what we saw was a 20-point Republican seat became a 14-point Democratic seat. That's a 34-point shift. This seat went red by 40 points at the last election. If that same swing is replicated, and I'm not saying it will be, because the Democrat who ran in the 9th district was a left-wing populist. They tend to be getting quite popular in the US at the moment as a backlash to the current administration and to some disappointment on part of the Democratic Party, which people felt wasn't really paying attention to people's needs. Left-wing populists do tend to be going well. I haven't read up too much on the candidates at this election, but if that is replicated, that seat narrows down to a 6-point Republican victory. Let me be clear, if that happens again, I think Talarico then becomes the favourite. I think that's a very good sign for him. And if this seat flips, I don't even know what happens then. I feel like I feel like we could be on the verge of seeing a huge shift in Texas. I think we're already going to see a huge shift in Texas. I don't know if it's going to be enough for the Democrats to win. That's just the question. So yeah, we'll look at how that goes. I think that special election. I don't know exactly when it is. I think it's in a week or two. We'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, expect the results of that to shape the strategy for the Democrats and Republicans heading into the November elections.